is up today, Dallas Cowboys fans, Cowboy Nation? Today is day one of the Dallas Cowboys in training camp with full pads. Full padded practice. So now you're going to be able to see guys go out there and hit a little bit, get comfortable with the game. I'm going to say the actual feel of what football is. Obviously, up to this point, we're talking about throughout the offseason, training camp, mini camp, OTAs, all the things just like that pretty much. Everything has been shirts and shorts. So you're talking about guys now being able to be physical and show some of that physicality, because we do know at the end of the day that muscle memory is now going to start to kick in. We're going to see guys start to get their feet wet, especially talking about young guys like a Cooper Beebe potentially. We're talking about but a Tyler Guyton, first round pick for the Dallas Cowboys, been able to go out there and get some opportunities at the left tackle position, where Cowboys are going to be expecting to hopefully expect big things out of him, because we do know at the end of the day, no longer having a guy like Tyron Smith, although up and down, we're talking about the injury history here and there. Now we're talking about a Tyler Guyton, we're going to need him to step in early, because we're going to have to be consistent when it comes to offensive line play. Obviously, we're talking about what Dak Prescott is, the MVP runner-up last year, and a lot of people's estimation could have potentially just been the MVP winner outright. You're going to need to keep him healthy, at least for this season, because we do know already contract talks have been going on for Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. Micah Parsons pretty much is in the clear. He's been out there at training camp right now, not really worried about his contract situation right now. But we're talking about Dak Prescott. The number one thing you got to do is keep him on his feet and healthy. So that's going to start with his offensive line being a complete chain and being on the right, and I'm going to say on the right track, but on the same page. And that starts with talking about our left tackle, playing that blind side to your quarterback. You know, that's the number one most important position when it talks about just keeping your quarterback healthy. So it's going to be a lot to talk about through the coming days. But again, this is just day one of training camp for the Cowboys in pads. So now you're going to be able to see DeMarvion Overshown come back from his ACL injury, unfortunately, from last season. You're going to be able to see what an Eric Kendricks can do. You're going to be able to see some of these other guys. I'm going to say Wanye Thomas from the safety position, a guy that I'm going to say is going to be able to throw his name in that hat of finding some playing opportunity, because Mike Zimmer, he's looking for hard-nosed players, and we're going to say this team is starting to build that mentality. Obviously, where you're looking at potentially hoping for more out of Mozzie Smith and going into year two. Obviously, our first-round pick from last year out of the University of Michigan, he was not able to have the, I guess you want to say, the impact that you might have been expecting and hoping for. But obviously, a lot of that had to do with Dan Quinn not really understanding how exactly he wanted to play a guy like that. So you're going to have to figure out where exactly he is going to be most comfortable. And I'm going to say, if we're talking about pads, the number one biggest thing we're going to be looking at is that battle, Cooper Beebe and Brock Hoffman. Right now, Brock Hoffman is holding down the fort, and I'm going to say we're going to be able to say this team could potentially have some depth when it comes to talking about the interior of this offensive line going forward. You already know you do have that staple, a guy that's been here for such a long time. At this point, the All-Pro, multi-time All-Pro, multi-time Pro Bowler, Zach Martin, just the leader that he is for this team. You're going to now start to be able to build some of that interior offensive line depth. So the Cowboys are going to be in a good position going forward with some of this youth on the offensive line. But again, you're going to still have to be able to get these guys a little bit more comfortable over the coming days. So we'll see how that goes. Once again, also talking about day one of the padded practice for the Dallas Cowboys in training camp. The number one also, we're going to say one of the biggest things, of course, is still in conversation. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb both having conversations with the agents, pretty much having conversations and negotiations with the front office, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones especially, trying to get these things locked away, these extensions. But Stephen Jones pretty much says himself, the talks are pretty much ongoing, but they're all upbeat on both sides, from Dak Prescott's camp and CeeDee Lamb's camp as well. Because again, we do know at the end of the day, this is the only time that the Cowboys are going to be able to get themselves in a rhythm when it comes to continuity and being able to be on the same page, especially in the passing game. Because we're talking about a guy like CeeDee Lamb, we know the talent that he is. We're talking about potentially a guy that's going to be making $34-35 million a year. And I'm going to say personally, in my own opinion, he is very deserving of that, because we have seen what this Cowboys offense will look like when you don't have that true number one priority, that number one guy to take a lot of the attention. And obviously, I have lots of confidence in what I feel Brandon Cooks can bring, but that's to me as a complimentary piece. And Jalen Tolbert, he's still a work in progress. He could have a big splash breakout type season for this team, but again, it's still a work in progress because we're not sure. There's lots of uncertainty. And Jake Ferguson, again, I've talked about many times in this passing game, is going to be interesting to see what he can do going forward. But CeeDee Lamb has got to be back out there, because the Cowboys offense, for us to reach these goals that we have, I guess you want to say, continue to evade us, that have continued to evade us for so long, is going to have to be with a guy like CeeDee Lamb out there contributing and giving his piece, because we do know at the end of the day, when CeeDee Lamb is out there on the field, he just opens up so much for not only himself but everybody else, and that's going to make Dak Prescott's job much easier going forward. So this is going to be an exciting time for the Cowboys, and I'm going to say exciting in the sense of being able to kind of build on that offensive production that they were able to kind of start up last year. Obviously, it didn't work that well in the postseason, but later on in the game when kind of now you're playing pretty much no huddle, you're having to go for broke. But the Cowboys, if they're going to be able to find some continuity, now bringing back an Ezekiel Elliott, to me, a guy I'm going to be looking at and saying he's going to be more of a complimentary back, because I'm going to say I still have so much confidence in a guy like Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle's biggest issue is just staying healthy. He has got to stay on the field. We do know it's sometimes when you're talking about these running backs, especially, that's why the average running back career is about 3-4 years, and you're talking about even having the longevity. You're looking at guys being maybe with the team or in the league it's in general for about 6-7 years. And to me, we're talking about a Rico Dowdle. He plays so physical. He plays with that hard-nosed running effort, and sometimes you're going to have some bang-ups. So I do feel like we can talk about potentially the draft. The Cowboys should have focused a little bit more on some running back help earlier on. The way I had plenty guys I talked about in the when we were discussing the draft prospects potentially. The Cowboys had many options and directions they could have taken it in this draft at the running back position. They chose to just kind of wait it out a little bit and return and that opened up the return of an Ezekiel Elliott. So there's still so much to play around with, but having Ezekiel Elliott back in the fold, that's still a veteran presence. That's a guy that's very familiar with this system. He's familiar with the way we like to do things to a certain extent, especially for the most part already. So that's going to be pretty much just throwing him back in the fire and getting comfortable. But again, it's day one of pads. There's not really much going on. You're still trying to get guys too comfortable, a little bit more comfortable than they have been. Again, just shirts and shorts. So this is going to be something to kind of keep an eye on going forward. Just that running back, I guess you want to say, the way that's going to be divvied out the carries itself. One of the biggest things that obviously going to be talked about is Trevon Diggs. And this is the most exciting news, especially as a Cowboys fan who just wants to see this team get finally healthy. Trevon Diggs was finally taken off the PUP list, the PUP, physically unable to perform list. So he's now eligible to practice. And pretty much today was just a day that the Cowboys just kind of tried to get him a little bit comfortable, get his feet wet a little bit, did some light work and just one-on-one coverages, things like that. But just seeing Trevon Diggs finally off that physically unable to perform list is going to pay major dividends for the defense going forward, because now you're going to have to kind of figure out now what are going to be the pieces around that. You obviously know DaRon Bland, now an all-pro cornerback, and we're talking about I believe the NFL's top 100 players list, and DaRon Bland showing up at number 31. Some people are not agreeing with it, whatever it is, but to me it's just saying that he is getting a little bit more respect around the league. Obviously we could talk about, I've seen lots of people talking about that Seahawks game, and a lot of people are throwing that all in the mix and saying that's when he started to get cooked a little bit. This is the NFL. When you're playing against elite talents, and we're talking about a guy like DK Metcalf, that is one of the most, I guess let's call it what it is, one of the most physically just intimidating type players in this entire league, whether the size, the strength, the power, the speed, all that stuff. DK Metcalf, he can have a crazy game on just about any cornerback in the league on any given Sunday or on any given game in general. So DaRon Bland, I still have the utmost confidence in him, but having Trevon Diggs back and just letting him get comfortable on the opposite side, we're now going to have two ball hawks on the outside, and that's going to open up so much more. You're talking about maybe for potentially a cornerback in Jordan Lewis, a guy I have a lot of respect for, and I feel like he's very underrated in this league, because when Jordan Lewis is playing at his best, he's one of the best, to me, I'm going to say, inside corners in the league, because he doesn't get the respect for, we already know how hard it is to play slot corner. You're having to cover so much field, you're having to do so much, and there's so much, again, that people are not going to really give you much help out there on that field when you're playing that slot corner position. So a guy like Jordan Lewis, let's see what we have in a rookie, Kalen Carson. I have that's a guy I'm going to say right now, he's going to be able to make some plays earlier on in training camp already. Obviously, like we talked about, this is the first day of pads. Kalen Carson has made some plays, had some nice interceptions, broken up some plays in the one-on-ones and in team play as well. So this is a guy that we're going to be able to kind of hang our hat on. And if the Cowboys are going to say that we're going to lean into the defense, which Mike Zimmer is going to bring, hard nose, not taking any days off, going as hard as you can 100% of the time, then we're going to now be able to say you want to see some of the physical presence. Again, talking about a guy like DeMarvion Overshown, talking about a guy like Maurice Lafau. You're talking about now looking at and saying Mozzie Smith could be able to make an impact in this upcoming season, because the number one thing you have seen from a guy like Mozzie Smith, his get off the ball is past. That's taken just major improvement. And I'm going to say, if we're talking about a guy that's improving at some certain things, this is now where you want to be able to show it, because I guess you want to say, the way you're looking at it, you're getting closer and closer to the regular season. We know the preseason is much shorter than it used to be. And now, next thing you know, you look up, you're already at week 1. So you want to see guys like Mozzie Smith be able to go out there, and Marshawn Nealon go out there and show their impact, because obviously we do know we now unfortunately will be without Sam Williams, a guy I was hoping to have a breakout season this year under a guy like Mike Zimmer, and he was obviously going to get many opportunities. He's no longer going to be able to do that, so you're going to have these other guys around improving, and you're going to look at a guy like Osa Odigizua, who I'm going to be looking at to be a leader of this defense. But also, when you're looking at the concept of what we've seen from Micah Parsons, Micah Parsons is now turning himself into more of that vocal leader. We know Micah likes to talk in general, but we're talking about on the field, you're seeing him kind of get into guys a little bit more, holding guys accountable. And I know at the end of the day, he has the same expectations for himself. So the Cowboys are now starting to round out a little bit. A guy like DeMarvion Overshown, who was pretty much out there, I think, with first team defense today, was running that will linebacker position. We're now going to be able to say the Cowboys can come in and be physical week in, week out, because you know that's where it starts with your defensive coordinator. That's the guy that's going to be able to set the tone with his expectations in general. So the Cowboys are now going to start to round themselves out a little bit. A guy like Wanye Thomas, like I said, he's going to be one of those sleeper guys. But having Trevon Diggs back out there, just now starting to get comfortable, you want to work his way back in slowly again. You don't want to have any rushing situations, because that we're not even in the mode of that yet. But having Trevon Diggs back out there is going to open up so much more when he's actually able to kind of go, I guess, 100% with the team, first team defense. So there's going to be a lot to talk about going forward, but it's exciting. And after paying close attention to day 1, like I said, of padded practice, some of the key things to take away from the day, a guy like Tyler Guyton, first round pick out of Oklahoma, a left tackle I just spoke about a little bit. He was able to stonewall a few guys, especially we're talking about he held his own against Micah Parsons, and consistently. He was out there today pretty much, again, just showing that he wants to be alone in this, starting especially at that left tackle position. He doesn't want to have any competition. We obviously know with Chuma Edoga, who I'm not a fan of, but again, when we're talking about depth, you can't have too many bodies out there. But a guy like Tyler Guyton being able out there, just again, showing his own heart and his footwork, that's the number one thing you're kind of seeing. I believe all-pro, we do know all-pro left guard, now Pro Bowler, all the like. Tyler Smith pretty much says how impressed he was with a guy like Tyler Guyton today. We're talking about 6'7", 300 and something pounds. This is not a small guy at all. So to having the footwork and showing that he's getting stronger in his upper body, that's going to pay major dividends. So we have got to keep an eye on that. But I'm excited about it going forward. And talking about, again, that interior of the offensive line, Brock Hoffman is kind of holding down that center position right now. He had a nice day 1. The passing game was kind of up and down, obviously, and that's to be expected, because you're talking about having so many interchangeable receivers brought in now, as we're dealing with the CeeDee Lamb contract situation. And then you still having Brandon Cooks out there, Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, Kavontae Turpin, who I'm going to expect to be a contributing member of this passing game this upcoming season, just even as a specialty player or a gadget type player in certain instances. But the passing game, the number one thing we're talking about, again, that interior. But Brock Hoffman holding down that center position right now, you can never go wrong with having lots of competition. And that's going to start with the center position, talking about Cooper Beebe, because that's who's going to be getting the ball to a Dak Prescott on every single play. So if Brock Hoffman is going to be able to hold off Cooper Beebe, you're going to know that Brock Hoffman is out there playing hard and he's executing. So you can't complain about having multiple guys that can kind of get the job done, especially at that center position. And also, we're talking about, I believe, obviously, Trey Lance. Cooper Rush was having some throws today. I believe Wanye Thomas gets an interception on him. But Trey Lance has been so up and down. I believe he got some of the first team reps when Dak Prescott was off the field today. Just kind of, I guess the coaching staff wanted to see where he is. But a guy like I said, Trey Lance, he's been up and down. And to me, I wasn't finding myself saying he's our future starting quarterback or anything like that. But I did want to see what he can do. So hopefully he's going to start to get a little more comfortable again. It's the first day in pads. You don't really know what to expect from many of these guys. But if you're looking at a guy like Trey Lance, you want to see him improve with just his timing. Sometimes you can tell he still is very raw because he also sometimes it's kind of that extra thinking. And in the NFL, that's going to make you throwing lots of interceptions because if you're late on passes, DBs in this league, linebackers even, safeties, everything above the in general, we're talking in the passing game, that can cause an issue because if you can't eye receivers, you can't take all day because those windows will be open and they close so much faster. So Trey Lance, he's going to have to get better with his timing, and obviously you're talking about playing behind a guy like Cooper Rush, who's still going to be a veteran presence. Like I said, he's a veteran in his league at this point. A guy that you're going to be, say, in a bind, he can come in there and kind of get the job done for a couple weeks, few weeks, whatever it is. And Dak Prescott, again, an MVP type caliber player at this point of his career. He's going to be able to kind of sit behind a Dak Prescott, and I'm talking about Trey Lance, be able to sit behind a Dak Prescott and learn and soak up everything he can. And hopefully from a guy like Cooper Rush too, just being able to kind of see how the NFL game is going to actually go. So there's going to be a lot to talk about again going forward. But today, day one of the Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys and pads, there is going to be so much more. Obviously, you've seen kind of the jokes going around, especially at this point, videos, clips going around and talking about how there are really no fans out there on the first day of camp for the Dallas Cowboys. First day of training camp in pads today for the Dallas Cowboys. That can be a testament to just the fact that it's a Tuesday. It's the middle of the week. People have to work out there in California as well. So who knows? But we'll see exactly how the Cowboys start to get themselves rounded out into shape going forward. But I appreciate you guys for all the support. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share. We're going to keep these updates going because the Dallas Cowboys are always going to have something going on, as we always know. So I appreciate you guys for all the support. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and for sure, again, comment down below. How do you guys feel about the Cowboys going forward? Are you very pessimistic about this upcoming season? Are you excited about the season? Obviously, we do know there are both sides of the spectrum. You can be excited. You can say it's a new year. Let's try to correct some of those wrongs we had from last season. And also at the same time, you can be in the mindset of saying this team is disappointing me for one time too many, and I'm kind of just waiting and seeing, taking a wait and see approach. So let me know down below in the comment section how you feel about the team going forward. I appreciate you guys for all the support, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.